Now, at the 135 division, the division that TL has left, Devin Haney speculated to leave.
Mhm.
We had a fight with I don't know if you consider him a prospect at this time or if he has arrived, but Frank the Ghost Martin, he fought
Mhm.
against Artem. What is his last name? How you say his last name?
Artem,
Hartorium.
it's pretty hard for me to pronounce.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
can
And I
probably consider him to be a prospect, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
What
And
is
I
he,
don't.
12-1 now?
You said what?
What is he, 12-1 now after losing to Frank Martin?
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna call him Artem. Artem. I don't have his name readily on my screen, so I can't
Yeah.
like read it and pronounce it. But you guys know who I'm talking about. I think his pedigree is he was a Olympic. Was he a bronze
I think he was
medalist?
a bronze medalist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which Olympic pedigree means something.
Yeah.
So we came in. He fought against Frank Martin, and Frank Martin's coming off of the win where he washed Michelle Rivera. So I think people were anticipating the same thing. I think if you looked on FanDuel, he was a big favorite. I want to say minus 1,400 or something like that. So a big favorite, but I don't know if he struggled or if he just couldn't like kick it into that extra gear. What was your perspective when you saw it?
He definitely underperformed from my perspective, but I think he was really just battling himself in the
Hmm.
fight. He wasn't letting his hands go. Although Artem was, throwing punches a lot of the times, if you watch the fight, Frank was catching him. He was
Hmm.
catching a lot of shots, and he was just kind of like just looking to kind of counter and pick those points in the fight where he can just really capitalize, and those moments weren't really there. And I think Artem kind of had like a unique style, a bit of an awkwardness in terms of timing that was throwing Frank off, and Frank didn't really know how to deal with it until he felt like he was down on the scorecards, and he kind of just started mustering that, that dog in him, and he brought it out,
Yeah.
and even got Artem to, take that knee, which I felt like was really detrimental to Artem, right? Because he doesn't
Yeah.
take that knee, he potentially wins that fight or gets a draw,
Hmm.
right? Well, but we've seen the scorecard, so but and just from a from a from the fans' perspective, so I would definitely say it was more so. I think Frank Martin overthinking the situation until Derek James had to light a fire under him, like, yo, you got to go and get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen Derek James that angry. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Jermel Brian Castano won where he felt
right.
like Jermel just wasn't doing what he was saying. But he was telling Frank, like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You gotta go out and do this. And Frank had like a magnificent round 6 where he almost looked like
Yeah.
he could have stopped Artem, right? But then like he kind of took his foot off the pedal again. And he even says it after the fight, like, like it's really on me, like basically saying, it's just him, he just didn't like step on it the way he should have.
Right.
So, what do I think of Frank after that fight? I'm still high on Frank. You know what I'm saying? I think everyone is bound for an off night,
Right.
but like you said, he did pick it up. The championship rounds 10, 11, and 12, he dominated. He
Yeah.
dominated 10, 11, and 12. However, I did score the fight 114, 113 with that knee being the difference, me
Right.
giving Frank the nod. So what I would say is I think Frank has to work on his motor. I don't think
Mhm.
it that it was I don't think it's that he was tired, but I don't know why he just couldn't kick it into that extra gear. Maybe he just wasn't motivated by the person on the other end of him.
Mhm.
But I mean, you train with Errol Spence, who has a high motor, so maybe try to pick his brain, figure out how that motor keeps going. You know what I'm saying? Because if he could have, you don't have to fight at 110 miles an hour, but if he could have just picked it up in more spots, I think this is a easy win for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Throw combinations. I know at one point after the post fight interview that he had, he mentioned, he didn't want to punch himself out and really look, but he almost ended up doing that because he had to really get back into the fight,
Mm-hmm.
from being down. So
Yeah.
yeah, it might have been. Yeah, I felt like it was more on him. And sometimes when fighters underperform, and we see it happen all the time. It happened with Shakur. It happened with Tank Davis. It
Mm-hmm.
happened with Devin. We've seen it happen time and time again where fighters underperform against certain opponents. I just think, unfortunately, Frank had a fighter that's not, on the same stature compared to the fighters like when Tank underperformed against Gamboa with a torn Achilles, right? Gamboa was just a bigger name. So they're like, all right, at least it's Gamboa. You
Right.
fight Artem is not the same. But like you mentioned, everyone's due for a bad night. It's the consecutive performances that you should be more concerned about, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'll have to see how Frank bounces back. And I still think that he may be ready for the top contenders, but I'm not confident that, he beats those top guys at 135. But even prior to this fight, I still felt the same. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this: based on what you saw last fight from Frank, right? If it wasn't him versus Artem, if it was him versus Keyshawn Davis, what do you think is the outcome there?
oh, based off how he performed, how he came in that night.
Just what we saw. If it was Keyshawn there, what do you think would have happened?
Oh, Keyshawn probably would have won that fight. I felt like. But then again, it's hard to say because Artem's style was probably what made Frank Martin hesitant, right? So if a Keyshawn is in there, it changes the whole dynamic of the fight. It changes the preparation. It changes how he comes out and what mental, outlook or frame what approaches he take. So I can't even say that confidently that that Frank loses. Honestly, I think we see a totally different fight. If I'm being 100% honest, I think we see a totally different fight.
I agree with you. I think if Keyshawn was in there, I actually would have Frank winning that fight still. I think we would see more motivated Frank. However, at this stage, if you're trying to take it to the next level, you got to come motivated every night.
Absolutely.
You can't just be motivated when you feel like there's someone on your level or someone who's been talking, a lot of mess to you. Like you got to come motivated every night. So from Frank, I just want to see, just always be motivated, have that chip on your shoulder. You started boxing late. People think maybe you ain't up to par. You know what I'm saying? Like always have that chip on your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like how can you not be motivated at any given moment? You walking in the gym, you seeing Errol Spence, Jamel Charlo,
Anthony
Joshua,
Ryan
Ryan Garcia.
Garcia.
So it's like, like Anthony Joshua even said, like, damn, he came in there working out. He's kind of tired. And he was like, damn, Errol was here before me and he's still getting in rounds when I'm ready to leave. Nah, come on, I gotta get back in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so I feel like you just gotta like light that fire under you, Frank. But I'm still high on Frank. I still think he's a tough out for anybody. There's still some, good big names that I think he would beat as well. So
Right.
I'm still messing with Frank, and he collected his first eye.
He did. Broken orbital bone, I believe.
He collected his first eye.